Hello everyone and welcome to the 188th episode of the weekly Dartscast. It's Wim here from Holland and it's very cold outside. Here is even snow expected. So I would suggest you just stay in your warm and cozy house, grab a cup of tea and enjoy this episode of the weekly Dartscast, which is the best darts related podcast on this planet. And it's time to meet your co-hosts, Alex Moss and Burton, DeWitt.
I'm joined today by Danny Lauby Jr. Danny, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you, and thanks for joining us. First off, I arrived back in the UK a few days ago for Q School, having just competed in the World Championships in London about 6 weeks ago. How much are you looking forward to the next week or so and having a trying to win a tour card?
I'm really looking forward to it. I know it's been kind of a struggle, with all the restrictions and everything going on. So I'm hoping to get out of this hotel room and get into the field.
Yeah, you mentioned the restrictions in place, not just obviously in the UK, but everywhere, but especially now for Q School. How much more difficult has it been made travel and preparing and making sure you're ready to play at Milton Keynes this week compared to previous Q Schools?
Well, it's been really difficult. Fortunately, my management, Lexus Promotions and Management, has been handling all of it. I get stressed out booking my own trips anyway, and she's been handling all of it, and I know it's been stressful, so I've just been kind of following her lead and just doing what she tells me. But it's different not being able to practice. Usually this week before Q School, in my past experiences, I've been able to meet with other players or even go to like a local tournament, kind of gather my bearings. But right now we can't even practice with other players, even in the same hotel. So it's different, but I'm fortunate enough as far as all the traveling and guidelines to have her handling that for me.
We're going to come on to management later, but since you bring it up, you mentioned Beth Lexus, your manager, and I believe she's made the trip with you. Just how much of a help, especially being a player coming from well overseas, is it to have a manager with you and arranging everything for you?
Well, it's huge. It's hard to even put a word on it. Especially for someone like me who genuinely gets stressed out and, I get anxiety booking the flights, and I have a busy life back home, so it's like I got to plan around my different jobs and schedule. And she's been, she knows all that. She knows what I do back home. So, as you know, she's just made it so easy for me, and I'm really grateful for that. So hats off to her. Definitely lucky.
Mentioned, we'll go back to Q School in a bit, but let's rewind to the start of your career. Guessing it was your dad who got you into darts. Is that right?
Don't remember ever not having a dart in my hand. I remember being little and just he's a workhorse. He's a guy that really gets into things that he does. So he'd practice all the time, and I remember picking it up immediately.
Of course, he played in the early days of the PDC, qualifying for 4 World Championships at the Circus Tavern, and of course won World Match Play in the late 90s, early 2000s. What do you remember about that? And did you ever with him to any of those events?
No, I tried to. I never went to any or anything, but I do remember him leaving like Christmas or on Christmas or Christmas Eve or something like that, and being able to watch like on TV. Maybe I was able to watch because I remember he remembers better than I do. But like I got a chance to watch his match, and he came home, and all I remember was like, yeah, I saw you get beat by the guy in this certain colored shirt, and I didn't know any names or anything. And now that I'm kind of in that same situation with the World Championships that passed, I was thinking, man, that would really suck to be gone during Christmas, and how bad I just want to be home. But obviously, every player that's there doesn't want to be home in a sense, because it means you're still in. So that's pretty much all I remember about that. But I do remember him being gone a lot during that time.
And we'll definitely come on to your appearance in the World Championships in a bit. But playing the last few years, mentioned that you went to Q School a couple times, also played the U.S. Darts Masters in 2018, pushing James Wade to deciding leg. And that's, of course, I should add, For those who don't know, that was, of course, part of the World Series event in Vegas. CDC's made major strides helping put on that and put on a tour recently. What's the dart scene like in the U.S.? How do you see it?
Well, it was before, all the quarantine and just everything getting so bad. I think it was really on the up and up. What the CDC has been doing has been amazing, and it's been opening a lot of doors for a lot of other players. It's definitely raised the game of everyone, all the serious players, and the qualifying events they do to get into the main stage is bringing out other players as well. And even now, with the at-home play, they have the Cyber Series. That's, I think, opened a lot of other players' eyes into taking the next step. So I think it's definitely growing. I was kind of worried at first the shutdown and everything was going to do to the dart scene, but it seems like there's a lot of live stream darts now. There's some the first one, CDC, Bearded Dart guys. He does a bunch of streams, and it's been, I think, really helpful. I think a lot more players are playing online, and hopefully when things get back to normal, they'll make it out to more events.
You mentioned that, of course, the lockdown this past year and the cyber darts, which I believe you took part in. Did you do anything else to stay sharp over the 6 months or so that there was no live competition?
Yeah, I've done a couple of those Cyber Series events. I've done a few tournaments here and there. I at first I didn't jump on it too hard. I just I don't know. I couldn't get into it. My situation at home, you can't go out to do the stream match very at all, so I have to play at home. And I have a young son there, and the way our house is built, my board is in kind of his play area, so it's just distractions. There's no adrenaline, and it definitely was a challenge for me. I've been trying to do more streams lately, just because that's all there is. So it's been a lot of mental workouts. Just trying to, when I have practices, trying to simulate pressure situations and the best I can, and it's pretty much it. It's tough.
Whatever it was, it seemed to work, because when the season picked back up, or I guess started in the autumn with a couple of events, you did well enough that you qualified for the World Cup and the World Championship. What was it like when we'll start with the World Cup, to represent your country alongside Chuck Pulio in the PDC World Cup?
Oh, it was an absolute pleasure. I was definitely honored to be a part of the team. Throughout the year, you go through a bunch of events, kind of sharpen your teeth, you're got the adrenaline going, you know what to expect. But I did one CDC event in Indianapolis before the World Cup. It was just one event, and it was great. But man, going to your first World Cup after not playing pretty much all year except for that one event, and getting on stage, lights and cameras, whoa, I forgot what this is like, and this is huge. So it definitely, it was an awesome experience, but it was definitely kind of I was definitely a little nervous, but a good nervous. I was really excited more than anything. But as far as playing, representing the country and playing with Chuck, that was a huge pleasure, and I hope to do it again.
A few more months to get that going, but of course you mentioned that event in Indianapolis that also helped get you into your first World Championship as well, where you took on Ryan Searle a few weeks later at Alexandra Palace. Obviously not the full experience, but same for the World Cup, of course, with no fans in attendance. But how were you feeling in the build-up to your World Championship debut?
Oh, I was just so excited. I was at first it's kind of like this. I was just nervous, is my test going to be negative? I'm kind of waiting for the results. I got to quarantine. Got to not get sick or something. That's the most nerve-wracking thing for me. But just knowing I was going to be in that building, playing on the stage at the World Championships, that's every dart player's dream. It did suck to not have crowds and the vibe that would normally be there. But hey, I was still there, and I still got to play at a high level. And I know there was millions of people watching, so it was great. I didn't actually start feeling really nervous at all until you drive up to the palace and they take you around back, and it was just so exciting.
And of course you hit some big outshots, and I think it was at a 148 to win the second set, big shots to win the fourth set. What were you feeling when in those moments, knowing that they had to go second set to stay in the or to level the match in the fourth set to stay in it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of every dart player feels that. You don't think about it. You just kind of, it's, like an instinct, and hopefully the clutch factor kind of comes in and you don't think much. I remember thinking the most was after the first set break. I literally, my first 3 darts, I dropped a dart on the floor. Like I threw a dart, dropped a dart. That was my first 3 darts in the World Championship. So that was my first thought, was like, really? Okay. And then I averaged like a 77 or 78 or something. And that first break, I was like, what are you doing? Come on. And after that, I just tried to go tunnel vision, and I did come close there. Obviously, Ryan played great. He didn't let off the gas at all, but yeah, it was great. It was a good experience.
This upcoming week will be Q School. Last couple years came very close to winning a card. I think, was it 2 years ago? You made the final round last year. This is the penultimate. Yeah. Maybe I have that reverse. But having come so close the last couple years, what are you thinking heading into this year?
Well, I'm just hoping that those past experiences will take effect and help me. It doesn't do very good to have a good day and not win, and then not have a good next 3 days. So I just got to stay consistent. I got to, if obviously I hope to just win one outright. That would be the best. But I just got to go in there every day and, win some games. All I can say there.
Consistency across the 4 day, this year will be across the 7 days, is the key. And we've seen it before with Jeff Smith getting through last year, winning a tour card, and what a start he had, making a Pro Tour final that first weekend. You'll be there alongside Danny Baggish and Canadian Matt Campbell. What would it mean to win a tour card and increase that North American representation on tour?
It'd be a dream come true. I know everyone's so supportive back home, and I don't know the last American who's had a tour card. If any, I know Jeff has had his, but that'd be huge. That would definitely I think that would take darts to a whole other level back home too. Because, for me as a young dart player, my dad was like my motivation, and seeing his success and, his trophies when he'd win, watching him win and at floor tournaments, that was huge for me. And, I think a lot of other young dart players, having someone that came up through the youth dart system, earn his tour card and be there, I think that would get a lot of the younger dart players back home picking up darts and, seeing the possibilities. I hope anyway. It'd be really cool if, 2 Americans won their tour cards, but I think it would help the game for us back home, because there's a lot of talent and there's a lot of question marks as to what's the end game for darts. Like, because back home darts isn't, I don't want to say appreciated, but not a lot of people know that you can have a very successful career playing darts here. So it's just a lot of investment, time and energy, and practice. So I'd like to do it just to show that, it can be done. It'd be great for me and my family as well.
Well, hopefully that investment and time all pays off this week, and best of luck in Q School.
Thank you.
I'm pleased to say I'm joined by the former World Championship finalist, Kirk Shepard. Thanks for the time, Kirk. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. Not too bad.
Good to hear. Well, first of all, I want to go right back to the start for you in darts. Where did your interest in darts come from?
Probably from my dad, really. He was just a pub player, a half-tidy pub player. He was into it, watched it on telly. Something I liked the look of. Bought me a dartboard for Christmas. Never looked back, really, from there.
2003, you won the World Youth Masters. A couple of years later, you got to the Gold Cup final. What memories stick with you from those teenage years coming through the ranks?
Probably the teenage years was when I was probably playing my best. Probably because I was most fearless being so young. Obviously tipped by a lot of people to go far in the game. And obviously going forward a bit, done well in 2008 and sort of took a turn for the worst really from there.
Yeah, we'll come on to that run in a moment, but the previous year you went into the qualifiers for what was the last World Championship at the Circus Tavern. You played a few PDC events that year as well. What was it like transitioning onto the PDC circuit?
Well, yeah, it was a massive step up. I sort of held my own in the BDO, but it was a different kettle of fish when I started playing PDC events. It was all a learning curve, really, scraping wins, like I say, just learning to start with.
Fast forward 12 months and you're in the World Championship qualifiers again. At this time, there were still the former champions being invited, the likes of Eric Bristow, John Lowe, Keith Deller. Before that qualifier, how would you have assessed your form going into it?
I was actually playing quite well, form-wise, going into it. I always thought that I could qualify for the World Championships, but a run to the final was out of the picture, to be honest. I was just happy to qualify at the start.
And a lot of darts fans remember your run at Ali Pali that year, but it's worth mentioning the qualifier in Wolverhampton, 5-4 first round and a 5-4 in the final round against John McGowan. What do you remember about that day?
Well, mainly I remember the first game you mentioned, 5-4. Can't exactly remember who I played now, Yorkshire bloke, but he actually had a dart to beat me, so I could have been gone there. In the final was a bit different. Should have won that 5-2. Missed a shed load of darts, and luckily managed to scrape that one in the end with a good last leg. So that was an up and down emotional day as well.
And I think it was around a month between that qualifier and your first round game at Ali Pali. What was the build up like to playing in your first World Championship, not knowing what the next few weeks would entail?
Well, to be honest, there was no nerves there whatsoever. It was excitement more than anything. You know, I'd achieved something big. It was going to be like debut in the World Championships. It was on TV. And it was just a moment, really, you know, to look forward to, even if it was just one game, but it didn't quite work out like that.
No, definitely not. What a run it was, knocking out some big seeds, the likes of Terry Jenkins, Peter Manley, Wayne Mardle in the semi-finals. There was a day break between the semis and the final. You're still just 21, the youngest player to make the final. What was the whole experience like of playing in that final against John Parr?
Well, I haven't really got great memories of the final, but the whole experience on a whole was just fantastic. You know, it was a fairy tale. Like I say, because I thought I was just going to go there, enjoy it, and see what happened. I think that's why I got far, because I didn't put any pressure on myself. Yeah, I rid me luck as well with people missing doubles, but it still took a lot of character, you know, to be there, take it out in tight games. Yeah, it was all a wonderful experience.
I know you said in a recent interview perhaps getting to the final came a little bit too early in your career. How hard was it to then manage expectations after that run so early on, not just in your PDC career but life as well?
Yeah, well, very tough. Like I say, during that at the time it was great. After that, everything come crashing down, you know. 21 years old, all of a sudden, you know, the expectation of the world's on your shoulders. I'd say, immature and young at the time, you know, stupid. And I learnt the hard way, you know. I stopped putting in the effort, thought I was better than I was, thought everything was going to be handed to me on the plate, and in a weird sort of way, probably reaching the final was the worst thing that happened in my career.
And we're obviously talking about it now, but how often do you get asked about that tournament? We're in a lockdown at the moment, but in normal times going out and about, do you still get recognised and asked about it?
Yes, sometimes. Question gets asked all the time, you know. I wouldn't say every day, but, you know, it's always there, and it's always something I think of every day as well. It's always be there.
Plenty has gone on since then, and fast forward to the end of 2012, and by this point we've now got the tour card system introduced, and you're now facing a trip to Q School to win back your tour card start of 2013. I was looking back as well, due to work commitments, you could only play 2 of the 4 days, but you still got your tour card back.
Well, yeah, that was it as well. Like I say, it was only 4 years from when I had that amazing run that I was back as a working class person, you know, doing roofing or what I was doing at the time for £80 a day, you know, when really I should have, on the other flip side of the coin, put the effort in, took it more serious, growing up a bit, and put all my eggs into one basket and play darts. But Q School has, luckily enough, always been kind to me over the recent decade. I've always managed to sort of be there or thereabouts, so hopefully the same next month.
Definitely will. Unfortunately, you dropped off the tour again 2 years after that, and you missed out at Q School. But 2015, you go on the Challenge Tour, and you have some success as well, winning a title. What did that mean, winning a title in the PDC?
Yeah, it's just always nice to win anything, you know. Challenge Tour, yeah, it was nice. There's still some good players in the room, but it's a different step up from the Pro Tour to the Challenge Tour. It really is. But like I say, yeah, still nice.
It was third time lucky winning back your tour card start of 2017 after those 2 years that you had away from being on the tour full time. How hungry were you to get back on the main circuit and challenging again?
Well, when it comes to January, I'm always probably the most hungriest in the year because you see the World Championships, know what you've achieved. You're not in it. You want to get back there. You want to be playing with the best. You want to beat the best. You know, it's all I've ever done is darts from the age of 13, 12. It's what I want to do as well.
And you've seen firsthand how much the tour has changed from when you first joined in 2006 to nowadays. Of course, a little bit different with the virus and everything, but we've had the introduction of the Euro Tour, the standard going up as well. What have you made of how the PDC has been able to progress the professional side of the sport?
Well, it's getting more professional and stronger every year. You know, there's no easy games. Where it could be, you might scrape a game or two. It's nothing like that. It's the best 128 players who are turning up to these events. It's not you can have one bad game and get away with it. You can have one bad score in a game and it will cost you the game. That's just how it is these days.
2019, you make it a hat-trick of successes at Q School, and I've got to ask about the UK Open that year as well. Not many people can say they've beaten Dimitri van der Berg in a dance-off on stage, but I'm going to give you the nod for what we saw in Minehead that year. What made you want to pull out some moves that day?
Well, I was actually talking with a few of my close mates, dart players, and they know I'm a big fan of The Office. And I said, if I win my third game, I'll get Dimitri. He likes to dance. I've got a little dance up my sleeve. And it was only really planned for that match. I would have never done it against anyone else, but it was a bit of fun, and yeah, got some fair publicity for that and some stick.
It's good fun. Well, last year was a unusual year to say the least with the virus. How did you find the long break in the spring and then coming back and playing the blocks of Pro Tours and the bubbles and everything that was going on?
Yeah, it was different. It's not something we're used to. I quite like the idea of having like 5-6 running events in 1 week, breaking down the year a bit. Yeah, I actually found that something I'd prefer, but at the moment I think everyone just wants everyone to get well, you know, and just go back to playing darts how we can.
Definitely. Well, you're back at Q School in a few weeks. This time round the format's different. As a player who's dropped off the tour, you get that bye through to the final stage. When you first saw the changes, what did you think? Because there's been a lot of talk in recent years about maybe adjusting the format. Yeah,
it's something different. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if there's 500 odd players in the room or 128. When it gets down to when I come into it, you got to beat these players in front of you. You got to be making these last 8 semi-finals, and they're all going to be good players, all as hungry. You just got to get on with it, beat what's in front of you.
And the main goal, obviously, is to get your tour card back, get another 2 years on the circuit. Under the current restrictions, how have the preparations been going for it? Has there been a lot of practice at home, online? What have you been doing to get yourself ready?
Yeah, I've been practicing at home. Been putting in more hours than usual. Set up a little mini league we play on a Wednesday night with a few of the other pro lads. So that keeps me sharp. This time, hopefully, if I get my tour card, what I've done previously, got my tour card, sort of been relieved and stopped putting in as much effort as I should. That's been something what I've learned from. Just got to keep putting in the effort day in after day, every day.
Fingers crossed you get your tour card. What are the sort of aims after that? If you do get back on the tour, what are you hopeful of trying to achieve over the next couple of years?
Keep my tour card. Well, yeah, that's always obviously everyone's aim against the tour card. They want to get in that top 64. It'd be nice playing the World Championships again. That's what we all strive towards, the big one. But yeah, want to keep your tour card.
Well, Kirk, we really appreciate your time. Wish you all the best for Q School in a few weeks' time when it comes around, and wish you all the best for 2021.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
I'm pleased to say I'm joined by a former Development Tour and Challenge Tour tournament winner, Kevin Doets. Thank you very much for the time, Kevin. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you, and appreciate your time. Let's start at the beginning for you in darts. What are your first memories of playing or watching darts? How did you discover it?
My first memories. Well, my parents played darts when I was a little kid, when I was like 4 or 5 years old. And I started playing by like throwing from a beer crate or close to the board. Sometimes like going with my parents to watch some darts, and they invited some friends over sometimes to play some darts at home, and yeah, that's how I got into it. And of course, I always watched the World Championship, both Lakeside and PDC.
I'm guessing there must have been quite a few role models for you watching on TV as well, in terms of players from the Netherlands, the likes of Raymond van Barneveld, Michael van Gerwen, and then obviously the Lakeside, Jelle Klaas and Christian Kist, all world champions from the Netherlands. Who did you enjoy watching the most?
I think I enjoyed watching the most Raymond van Barneveld, because he was just the biggest name. But I also always liked watching Roland Scholt. I don't really know why, but I just a new face, and he got up pretty fast, and he also disappeared pretty fast. But I don't know, I just like watching him too.
How did it come about you then starting to play on the PDC circuit? Before then, local scene in the Netherlands, were you playing leagues, tournaments? How did your progress from an early age start off?
I started with the Dutch national rankings when I was about, I guess, 10 or 11 years old. And of course, in the beginning, it didn't go so well. But I built my way up. I became Dutch national ranking champion in like the lowest division, the youth up until 14. Then the year after that, I got into the youth national team immediately, and 2 years in a row, we became national European champions. And after that, I had a pretty tough time because I got dartitis for like 1.5 years. But I got out of it, and when I got out of it, I started playing PDC, and then I was around 19 years old, I think, maybe 18 years old, maybe.
And just touching on the dartitis there, because I don't think many people know about that. What was that like, the whole thing of having that, and then how did you sort of get over the dartitis so you could play again?
Well, the thing is, like, I never thought that I could get it, but the first time it happened, I already knew like what it was, because like some friends of me got it, and then I felt something that was similar, and then I started thinking about it, and it got worse and worse. But an older friend of mine, he plays darts in Holland, I don't exactly know where, but he told me to try acupuncture, and that actually helped. I got needles in my head, in my arms, in my legs, everywhere where you could think that's like not logical, but it worked, I guess.
Excellent. Well, 2018, we see you start to play on the development tour in the PDC. How did you find that first experience? Was that the first time you came over to England to play darts?
No, I've played the Women World Masters twice, but the PDC was something totally different. My first weekend, I was super nervous, didn't really play that good, and I was not expecting much, but I was still a bit disappointed because it really didn't go the way I wanted. But it was the first weekend, and I learned a lot from, especially the first year. And right now I'm in a good place, I think.
As far as senior events, I want to go back to 2019, getting to the quarterfinals of the Dutch Open, which is the biggest open there is in darts. We see thousands of players enter that event. You making it all the way to the quarterfinals. You lose a close one, 5-4 to Richard Veenstra. How was that experience going so far in a big event like that?
Well, to be fair, I was at that moment I was playing really good. I was really confident, and reaching the quarterfinals was a really big thing. But I felt like it could have been so much more. Like I played against Richard, and we both played like a good game, and it could have gone either way. But of course, after that match itself, I was disappointed. But looking back at it, like last 8 on Dutch Open from like, I don't know, 2,500, 3,000 people, that's really good. I'm happy with that performance.
And at the same time, you're still progressing on the development tour. You get into quarterfinals, semi-finals, and around this time last year, you went to Q School for the first time in Germany. A good run on the second day, getting to the quarterfinals. What did you take from that whole experience of playing Q School for the first time last year?
Actually, Q School felt a little bit the same, like the development tours and stuff. Like I already played some development tours before I went to Q School, so I was already used to how the PDC worked and stuff. The experience itself was a little bit different because you play more legs than a development tour, but that didn't really bother me that much. I liked it, and I'm really looking forward to playing in 2 weeks. And
it was a good year for you, 2020. A lot of milestones ticked off. Got to mention the UK Open as well. You got through a few rounds. You're on the main stage. You got a win as well. How did you find it playing in your first big PDC event like that for the first time?
That was amazing, man. I think playing on that stage might have even been better than winning the Challenge Tour. That was just something that's like that. I was on television and I won. That's even better. But that's just something that every player dreams of, and that was just an amazing feeling. Well,
not long after that, the world went a little bit crazy, but still during the lockdown, you still made a name for yourself. The Dutch Darts Quarantine League, you went unbeaten during that. You won the whole thing. How important was playing in that event and other events like that for you to still keep yourself going during the lockdown when not a lot of darts was going on?
Well, actually, those online competitions for me during that time were not that important because I live in Sweden currently, and in Sweden during that time there was no lockdown, so we could still play darts and we could still go out and everything. We didn't really feel anything about the corona, but right now we do.
Okay, so how are things in Sweden at the moment as far as the virus and everything?
Yeah, at the moment, like there's not really a lockdown. You can still go to the stores. You can still go everywhere. It's just some restaurants, some bars, some hotels. Those are closed right now, and some have to close earlier. And then there are some rules that you can't be more than 8 people, I believe, in one room or in one building. So yeah, it's getting tougher. But from what I've heard from all of Europe, it's much better here than it's in the rest of Europe or the world.
Well, let's get back to the darts then. And the end of last year, end of September, the development tour comes back and you win the first event, beating Keane Barry 5-4 in the final. Of course, you've played a lot of development tour events the last couple of years, but what did it mean to you to go all the way in one of them and win one?
That was the best moment of my life in darts. To win that one, I remember it perfectly. I was on 68 after 12 darts, and I hit the triple 20. I took a step back. I put a marker with the second dart, and I hit the double 4. And just the relief in my shoulders and my chest, it was so big, and I haven't been that happy in maybe my whole life. That felt amazing.
And not long after that, we saw you back again. Obviously, we're not seeing a lot of events in 2020, but you were back for the Challenge Tour a few weeks later. Was it just a case of wanting to play as much as possible while you went to the Challenge Tour for the first time?
Yeah, like I'm with the sportsman management company, and just like they send me to whatever I can play, PDC wise, or maybe some other stuff besides that. So yeah, the Challenge Tour was planned, and after the development tour, of course, it gave me a huge boost and huge confidence that I could actually win a Challenge Tour too. But that was, to be fair, a lot tougher than I expected it to be.
And you do pick up a Challenge Tour title. The last event of the weekend, you beat some seasoned pros in there, the likes of James Richardson, Richie Edhouse in the final. So you've won a development tour and a Challenge Tour title last year. How pleased were you with your work that you were able to achieve in 2020?
I'm really pleased with what I achieved. I got my first television staged match and won it. I got my first 2 PDC titles. I just missed out on a tour card, but that I have confidence that will come, and if it's not this year, it will come next year or the other year. But right now I'm in a good spot, and 2020, even though it was not a good year for like everyone, it was a good year for me performance-wise, and yeah, I'm really happy with what I performed in 2020.
And it's worth mentioning as well that we saw you on the Pro Tour as well for the first time last year. You got the call up for the Winter Series, those 5 Players Championship events. How excited were you when you got the call up to say that there had been enough withdrawals and you were able to enter those events as well?
Yeah, well, at first they told me that I was going to be first reserve, and they asked me if I could only play the last 2 days, I believe. So yeah, I was a bit disappointed about that because I was 9th in the Challenge Tour, and all the other weeks, like all the 9th player could go. So at first I was a bit disappointed, but then 2 days later I got the phone call or the text message that said like, okay, you're in, mate, you're in all 5 days, and that feeling that felt amazing. And then coming there, it's just that's what you want. You want to be on the Pro Tour. That's just the best thing.
And you got some wins that week as well to pick up a bit of prize money. You also played against some of the more established players that we see in the PDC, the likes of Gabriel Clemens, Dirk van Dijvenbode, Jermaine Wattamina. What was it like being in and around them top players and playing in those tournaments?
Being around them, I didn't really care about that much because, I'm just there to play my own game, and I'm not gonna be getting flabbergasted. I don't know another word for that. Just by seeing them, I'm not gonna be like, oh shit, like this is real. Those are really the top players. Now I'm just there to do my own thing, and that's what I did. I think I had some really good matches, but of course I had some a little bit worse matches. But overall, I was happy about the week, about what I performed.
You mentioned earlier as well, you're part of the sportsman management company under Mac Elkin, who our listeners voted as the manager of the year in 2020. What's it like being part of his stable of players?
Yeah, that feels really good, man. We have a group chat with all the boys, and it's good fun with them too. Like most of them really don't know me yet right now. Maybe they heard of me, and I don't really know most of them personally either. But from what I've seen and from what I've heard, it's a really good group, and I enjoy being on the Mac. Mac is a top guy. He's a really good manager. So yeah, I'm happy with him.
Good to hear. Well, as we know, your performances last year, that's got you through to the final stage of Q School, a different format for this year. What's the practice been like? What's the preparation been like a week or so away now from playing in Q School again?
The practice has been pretty okay. I'm playing every day. Yeah, not that much, tops 2, sometimes 3 hours, because since January I've got a job that helped me out a lot with financial stuff. And now I work 6 days a week, so the darts were a little bit lower, but I took some extra days off right now to practice some more, because Q School getting close. But the feeling right now is still really good for me when I'm practicing, so you need to show that at the Q School in the matches.
Kevin, we really appreciate your time. Thanks for taking out the time to have a chat with us, and we wish you all the best for Q School next week. Hope it all goes well for you, and wish you all the best for 2021.
Thank you for